New York mornings were never quiet, but today, the city seemed even more rushed than usual. Umbrellas bobbed through the crowded streets like cautious jellyfish in a concrete sea. The sky was a dull slate, weeping a steady drizzle that blurred windows and soaked coats. Amelia Hart stepped out of the back seat of her sleek black car, heels tapping crisply against the pavement. Her assistant trailed behind her, already listing off agenda items for the morning's board meeting. Amelia barely heard him. Her mind was fixed on numbers, projections, and a billion-dollar merger that could redefine her empire. She was the kind of woman people moved aside for, tailored charcoal coat, hair swept back in a flawless bun, steel in her stride. No one dared interrupt her. Until someone did. A small tug on her sleeve stopped her mid-step. "Ma'am." Amelia blinked. She looked down. There, in the middle of the bustling sidewalk, stood a little girl, maybe 6 years old, maybe younger. Her dress was thin, soaked and clinging to her small frame. Her shoes were mismatched. One was missing entirely. In her tiny hand was a crumpled drawing, stick figures under a crooked sun, the word "Mama" scrawled in purple crayon. Amelia's first instinct was confusion. Then concern. Where were this child's parents? Before she could speak, the girl looked up, eyes wide and trembling, and asked softly, "I don't have a mama, can I spend a day with you, ma'am?" The world around them kept moving, people dodged puddles, cars honked impatiently, and not a single passerby seemed to notice the fragile moment unfolding at Amelia's feet. For the first time in years, Amelia Hart didn't know what to say. She glanced at her assistant, who looked just as stunned. "Security," he whispered under his breath. Amelia hesitated. Her hand gripped her leather briefcase. Logic said to walk away. Schedule said to keep moving. But something deep and long buried, whispered back. She looked into the girl's eyes again. They weren't just pleading. They were searching. For warmth. For safety. For someone to say yes. And suddenly, the rain didn't feel cold anymore. It felt cleansing. Amelia lowered her umbrella and knelt beside the girl. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Ava," the girl replied, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Ava," Amelia repeated. She reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from the girl's forehead. "Okay, Ava. Just one day." She didn't know what had come over her. But as she took Ava's hand, ignoring the shocked stares of her assistant and the curious glances of strangers, something shifted inside her, the faintest crack in a wall she'd spent years building. Amelia Hart, the woman known for closing deals without blinking, had just opened her heart without a second thought. And neither of them knew, that single moment was about to change everything. The elevator chimed softly as Amelia and Ava stepped inside. The ride up to the 47th floor had never felt so silent. Amelia stood stiffly, holding her soaked briefcase in one hand, Ava's small fingers wrapped tightly around the other. The girl hadn't let go since they left the sidewalk. Her grip was gentle but certain, like she feared that letting go might mean being lost again. The assistant, Daniel, cleared his throat. "Ma'am, the investors from Tokyo are already in the conference room. I could call Helen from HR too." "No," Amelia said firmly, not even looking at him. He blinked, stunned. "You're keeping her here?" Amelia finally turned, her expression unreadable. "Just for today." Daniel hesitated, then gave a small nod and stepped off on the 43rd floor, still glancing back like he'd witnessed something unbelievable. When the doors opened to Amelia's office, Ava's eyes widened. The floor was sleek marble, pristine and polished. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Manhattan's skyline, towering over the world like Amelia always had. A long table sat empty in the corner, and on Amelia's desk sat 3 screens displaying financial dashboards, stock tickers, and calendar reminders that were now falling apart. Ava said nothing. She just walked slowly toward the windows, placing her small hand on the glass. Amelia watched her, her thoughts a tangle of logic and instinct. She hadn't held a child's hand in 20 years. She didn't do spontaneous. Her world was one of control, outcomes, calculated risks. This wasn't on any spreadsheet. I like your big sky, Ava said suddenly, looking out. Amelia was caught off guard by the comment. My big sky? Ava turned to her and nodded. It's like you live inside a big cloud. My mama used to say heaven looks like that. The word struck a chord deep inside Amelia. A memory, distant and dusty, of her own childhood flashed through her mind. Rainy days when her mother would make cocoa and wrap her in a blanket on the porch. Before everything turned cold. Do you want to draw while I work? She asked gently, her voice softer than even she expected. Ava nodded. Amelia opened the bottom drawer of her desk and pulled out a few old colored pens and sticky notes. It wasn't much, but Ava lit up like she'd been given a treasure chest. As Ava scribbled rainbows and stars on post-its, Amelia sat behind her desk, unable to focus. Her fingers hovered over her keyboard, but her mind stayed on the girl, this little stranger who had shown up asking for one simple thing, a day. Not money, not things. Just time. And in giving that time, Amelia found herself doing something she hadn't done in years. She smiled. The board meeting could wait. Something far more important had just walked into her life, and for the first time in forever, Amelia Hart chose heart over hustle. By noon, Amelia Hart had done something she hadn't done in 15 years, she took the rest of the day off. Daniel's jaw had nearly hit the floor when she told him to cancel everything. But, ma'am, the Tokyo merger. They'll wait, she said, already helping Ava into a dry sweater borrowed from the building's lost and found. Ava's fingers were sticky with blue ink and speckled with glitter from the office supply cabinet. She skipped beside Amelia through the marble lobby like she belonged there, as if she were walking through a castle with her queen. Once outside, Amelia traded her town car for something simpler, she hailed a yellow cab. Ava leaned against the window, eyes wide, nose pressed to the glass. I've never been in a taxi before, she whispered. Amelia blinked. Really? The girl nodded. Sometimes I pretend the buses are chariots, though. Amelia chuckled softly. She couldn't remember the last time she laughed without restraint. Something about Ava's honesty disarmed her in a way Wall Street never could. Their first stop was a corner diner a few blocks down, one of those places that smelled like pancakes and memories. The waitress recognized Amelia instantly but said nothing when she saw Ava clutching her hand. She simply led them to a booth by the window and brought crayons. Ava ordered chocolate chip pancakes with extra syrup. Amelia ordered black coffee but barely touched it. She just watched the girl eat like it was Christmas morning. You always eat here? Ava asked mid-bite. No, Amelia admitted. I usually eat at my desk. That's so boring, Ava giggled, her mouth full. You should eat pancakes more. Next came a walk through Central Park, where Ava insisted they chase pigeons, feed ducks, and pick wildflowers, even if it meant Amelia's designer heels sank into the grass. At one point, Ava pulled out the wrinkled drawing from her pocket. This is my mama, she said, pointing to the stick figure. She had yellow hair and sang me lullabies. She went to sleep and never woke up. Amelia knelt, taking the drawing gently. I'm sorry, she said. Ava looked up. It's okay. I think she's still with me. Just, invisible. That hit Amelia like a wave. She thought of her own mother, lost when she was only 8, just like Ava. The grief had hardened into ambition, and then into walls. But now, a little girl was chipping away at them with drawings and honesty. As the sun began to set, they found themselves dancing in the misty rain outside the Met steps. Ava spun with arms wide, laughing as droplets clung to her lashes. Amelia joined her, hesitantly at first, then fully. Strangers stared. Cameras clicked. But she didn't care. Because for the first time in forever, Amelia Hart wasn't running a company. She was simply living a day she never wanted to end. The city was bathed in the golden hush of twilight when they arrived back at Amelia's private rooftop garden. It was her secret sanctuary. A quiet space above the chaos. Lush potted plants lined the terrace, and fairy lights twinkled overhead, casting a warm, gentle glow. Ava's eyes lit up as she ran to the edge of the terrace, looking over the skyline in awe. "It's like the stars came down to sit with us," she whispered. Amelia followed slowly, heart still warm from the day. She set 2 mugs of cocoa on the table, something Ava had shyly asked for after Amelia mentioned her mother used to make it too. They sat together on the outdoor bench, the city stretching before them like a dream. Amelia took a sip of her cocoa and glanced sideways. "You're a brave girl, Ava." The little girl swung her legs over the bench, clutching the warm mug with both hands. She nodded softly, but her smile had faded. There was a long pause before she spoke. "I didn't mean to lie," she whispered. Amelia tilted her head. "Lie?" Ava looked down at her lap, voice trembling. "I didn't get lost. I ran away." The words hit the air like a quiet thunderclap. "I live in a group home," Ava continued, barely above a whisper. "It's not bad, but nobody really talks to me. Not like you did. I saw you from the sidewalk one day and you looked like someone who could be nice, even if you looked serious." Amelia said nothing. She was too stunned to speak. "I waited outside your building for 3 mornings, Ava admitted, but today, it was raining, and I got scared I'd never be brave enough to ask." Amelia's throat tightened. She felt something shift in her chest, deeper than pity, deeper than concern. It was recognition. The feeling of being alone in a crowd. Of watching the world pass by and wondering if anyone would ever see you. It was a feeling she had buried in spreadsheets, power suits, and 15-hour workdays. She reached out slowly, placing her hand gently over Ava's. The little girl flinched, then leaned into her touch like a flower bending toward the sun. "You're not invisible, Ava," Amelia said softly. "Not to me." Ava's lower lip quivered. "Do you think my mama would be proud of me for asking today?" Amelia blinked away tears. "I think your mama would be more than proud. I think she'd be crying and smiling all at once, just like me right now." They sat in silence, hand in hand, as the first stars appeared overhead. For the first time in decades, Amelia let the moment hold her without resisting. No business calls. No checklists. Just the honesty of a child and the honesty it pulled from her in return. She wasn't just entertaining a child anymore. She was healing, with her. And something told her, this story wasn't over yet. 6 months later, the courtroom was quiet, almost reverent. The judge looked down through silver-rimmed glasses at the 2 figures standing before him. One was a woman the world knew all too well, Amelia Hart, CEO of Hart Global Industries, media mogul, business icon. But today, she didn't wear her usual power suit. She stood in a soft blue blouse and simple heels, her hair down for the first time in a public setting. No cameras, no reporters, she'd asked for complete privacy. Beside her stood Ava, now in a pale yellow dress Amelia had let her pick herself. Her braids were neat, and in her hand, she clutched a brand new drawing. It showed 2 stick figures, holding hands under a sky filled with stars. One was labeled, "Me," and the other, in big wobbly letters, said, "My new mama." The judge cleared his throat. "Ms. Hart, are you prepared to take on full legal guardianship of Ava Grace Thompson, including all rights, responsibilities, and privileges therein?" Amelia looked down at Ava, who gave her a hopeful, unwavering smile. Then she looked back up and answered, without hesitation. "Yes. With all my heart." The judge's gavel came down gently. "It is hereby ordered and approved." Amelia Hart is now the legal guardian of Ava Grace. There was a pause, and then Ava launched into Amelia's arms, giggling, her small arms wrapped around her new mother's neck. Amelia hugged her tightly, her own eyes stinging. Outside the courthouse, the sun was high, warm and full. Daniel waited by the car, but not as an assistant today, more like family now. He had tears in his eyes too, and handed Ava a little balloon that said, "Welcome home." In the following weeks, Amelia made changes, starting at home and rippling outward. Her penthouse transformed. The once sterile spaces now overflowed with color. Children's books lined the shelves. The cold boardroom was often filled with Ava's laughter and macaroni drawings tacked proudly to the wall. The rooftop garden now held a small swing. But it didn't stop there. Amelia quietly launched a foundation, the Ava Grace Project, committed to supporting orphaned and displaced children, helping them find families, voices, and homes. No press release. Just quiet, purposeful work. At bedtime one evening, Ava climbed into Amelia's lap with her favorite stuffed lion. "Did you always want to be a mama?" she asked sleepily. Amelia paused, brushing a curl from Ava's forehead. "I think I always did," she whispered. "But I forgot, until you reminded me." Ava yawned. "I'm glad I found you." Amelia kissed the top of her head, her voice catching. "No, sweetheart. I think, you saved me." The lights dimmed, the city outside still bustling, but inside that home, everything was still, whole, and full of love. And in a world that often seemed too busy to notice a lost little girl, one woman did, and let her in for just one day. And that one day became forever.